October 28th, 2024. The time is 6:45 p.m. Opening prayer, Dr. Carl Pace from Zion UCC on Main Street, correct? All right. Awesome.
I invite you to bow your heads and take a moment of silent prayer in the tradition that suits you best, as I do the same. Glorious God, we come to this place for the good and order of all. We pray that your powerful presence would be felt in every decision that is made with an intention for health and human flourishing. And we know, Lord, that there's a lot of exciting things ahead. Ordinances, annexation. These are sexy words, Lord. We can only imagine the energy that's going to run through this room when we get to those ward reports. But we pray your favor would be upon everyone here, that we would have good self-control, that we would not only maintain decorum, but live in our best selves. We ask that each and every council member and each and every member of the community that's here would think very carefully before speaking, that we would place the good of others ahead of the good that we would seek for ourselves. I ask and pray that personal and private agendas would be set aside for the public good, and that you would enable all of us to focus on moving the needle just a little bit more toward justice and fairness and for the freedom of all. We ask this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Liam, would you please call the roll?
Member Wyrick? Member Owens?
Here.
Member Clayster?
Here.
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Warren?
Here.
Member Matheny?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
6 present.
Motion to excuse member Wyatt.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, have a motion and a second to approve as presented the codification updates to chapters 1739, 135, 136, and 155 as amended. And minutes from the October 21st Committee of the Whole and the October 14th City Council meeting. We're going to amend that one.
Okay.
Motion and second for that, please.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then, Dave, there's an amendment to make on 5E from the committee on October 7th. You want to read that into the record?
Yes, on page 38, the response to the question was answered by Mr. Young, but in the minutes it's noted as Mr. Ott, so that needs to be changed.
Okay, so we'll add that into the amended version and make a motion to approve that as read.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, council invites Stark County Auditor Alan Harold to the floor to speak about the current tax updates and answer any questions for officials. Yes, thank you.
Sure. Thank you all for having me, President Stroya, Mayor Waller. It's good to be with you today. Certainly I've been out and about a good bit over the past few months after I sent 130,000 love notes out to everybody in the county as we went through our sexennial reappraisal. So I'm going to talk just for 1 minute on that, and then a couple minutes as relates to the tax levies that are on the ballot here in the city of North Canton. So this is, again, this will take about 4 or 5 minutes at top. So next slide, Liam. So how property tax rates are set. Two parts to this. The first is on the valuation of the property. This occurs every 3 years. The last time we did it was in 2021, pay in 2022. Taxes are always paid in arrears in Ohio. And now here in 2024, pay in 2025 is what we just went through right now. In 2021, in the triennial update, what we do is we're just looking at the market conditions and moving everybody kind of up and down the same way. So here in North Canton, if Councilman McLeister's house went up 10%, Councilman Stroy's house down the street probably went up 10%, Councilwoman Waring's house probably went up about 10% too. All the same, very uniform in the way that we do that. When you do the reappraisal, we're going and looking at characteristics of the property and how what's going on in the marketplace relates to the characteristics of the property. So in that instance, depending on where you live, depending on the dollar value of the home, depending on the size of the home, characteristics of the home, might go up 10, might go up 40, might go up 30. Again, it's all going to be very individualized based on what goes on there. You probably went up 60, Stephanie. You may have heard about that. Those are the things that are the valuations determined by the characteristics of the property, where it's at, how big it is, beds, baths, how new it is, has it been updated, how big the lot is, those kind of things. And then sales broadly and similarly. So we look at the location, we build out from there. So homes in North Canton aren't being compared to homes in Louisville or from Massillon. We started at a neighborhood level and build out until we have enough statistical data in order to do our analysis. As part of our analysis this time, we analyzed 24,000 sales, 24,000 arm's length sales in the past 3 years in Stark County. So then we go to set the rates, and the rates are made up of two things. One's the valuation that we set, that we determine, and then the second is the actual tax rate itself. The tax rate's made up of two parts as well. The first is the inside millage. That's set as part of the state constitution. That's 10 mills. Those 10 mills move up and down as your value moves up and down. So if your value went up 10%, that part of the millage is going to go up 10% too. If that value went down on your property 10%, that part of the valuation on your property is going to go down 10%. The rest of the value, or the rest of the millage, most of the millage, is what the voters have chosen to tax themselves at over time. And this is all a computation based on the levies that have been put in place since House Bill 920 was passed in the mid-1970s. So our tax rates are all a function of the little bit that was in place before then, but largely what the voters have chosen to tax themselves at over time. Next slide. Okay, so here's how this works in the real example that we have here. This is on an average house. This is just an average house here in the city of North Canton. And this is when we did the 2021 update. I'm going to walk over to the screen just so I can point at a couple things here. So we had the values here in 2021, or 18, 19, and 20, 137,000 on average in North Canton. And then when we did the triennial update, average home in North Canton worth $160,000. Change in value, 16% it went up. Change in the taxes, this is just for the city of North Canton. Change in the taxes only went up 6%. Why? Why is that, right? So we look at the rates right here. These are the rates that the voters approved. The first one's actually the general fund. This is what's set in the state constitution. And it's split, general fund millage is split between the county, the schools, and whatever municipality they're in. The other levies here for a city are all what the base tax rate was when the levy was passed. The effective rate occurs because, the difference between these occurs because I'm only allowed to collect a certain amount of money, right? As values rise, as it goes from here to here, what we do is, you can see, we lowered the effective millage on each of these levies because I'm only allowed to raise the dollars that were agreed to when this levy's passed. So over time, this effective rate drops down. It's going to, so long as values are rising, this is going to drop down over time. And you can see on this bill here, 2021 taxes paid on this levy, $40.79, $40.73. And they're going to be off little bits in that, just kind of based on rounding that we have here. Now in between here, and this will be important when we go to the next slide, is that 2022 is when these two levies were added here too. But they're outside this calculation just based on the triennial update. Values went up 16.5% in North Canton. Taxes only went up about 6%. Next slide. So here's where we're at in 2024. Here's that same number from the previous slide, but you can see what happened to our values, 21, 22, 23, 160,000, 24, on average, 219,000 here in the city of North Canton. We'd say good, it's good, values are appreciating, right? Change in value, about 37% here. Change in the taxes, only gonna be about 13%. This is, I'm only talking on the North Canton portion, right? Other things involve the school calculations, other county calculations, but we're just talking about city of North Canton right now, 13%. When you layer everybody else in, it's gonna drive that value down. We would estimate, based on our calculations, that we're gonna go from 9.3 effective mills, right here, and what you paid right now, to 7.68. 7.68, it's gonna go down. And you can see we raised with that money before, 478. It'll be about 541 going to the city on this average home. Where does that difference come in? Largely right here. Largely right here, up in the effective millage. What's 161 minus 117? What's that about? 45 bucks? 45 bucks, give or take, right there. The rest, again, it's just a little bit of rounding right here. Again, these are just estimates that we do. These will probably play out to be a little bit closer than they are right here when we actually do the computation at the end of the day. But again, most of the levies stay flat. That's what they're designed to do. Next slide. So when we get here to the levies that are on the ballot here, again, we're using this 160 times this 9.3 times the 9.3 to get the 478, the 219, times the effective rate right here to get the 541. That's important to keep on the math going forward. Next slide. Now we've got these two new levies that are on right here, right? One that's going to be on the bond levy for the Safety Service Center, estimated at 1.97 mils, $16 million it's designed to raise, that'll be bonded over 25 years. First year in 2024, paying 2025, we're going to collect that at the full rate. Why do we collect that at the full rate in the first year on a bond levy particularly compared to an operating levy? Bond levy, we have debt service that we're obligated to pay. We have to pay it. We have to raise enough money in order for the city to make its debt payment right here. But what happens in the first year? Not everybody pays, right? There's no reserve account in there too, like we have for bonds over time. So that first year, what we do is we assess the full millage almost categorically. Might be off a mill or two, but we assign that for full millage the first year. Second year, you can see that it drops, right? Because we're going to have some delinquent collections in that second year right here. And then this amount right here is the estimate based on the reappraisal too, okay? The street levy, not going to come on until 2025. Move on to the next slide right here too. Oh, I forgot about this one here. This is going to drop off. This storm sewer that y'all did, you passed that ordinance for flat fee and then for that levy to go away. We're going to collect that levy for one more year. Yep, we're going to collect that levy for one more year in 25, 26. It'll drop off. That's when the fee will go on. So that's going to affect the calculation too. Next slide. Then we've got the street levy that I started talking about here. We're replacing and increasing the street levy from 2005 to 2025. Okay. Right now, you're paying an estimate $37.49 on this. In 2026, tax year 25, paying 26. That's what we estimate it'll go up to right there. Going to collect at the full 2 mils in that first year, just the way the calculation is set up. Next slide. The last thing, again, for basis of comparison right here, as people are sitting here making the decision, again, a lot of moving parts. We got the bond levy, we got the sewer coming off, we got street levy being replaced, but that's not, so for 2 years out. Really what we'd say we'd look at here, here's the taxes that are paid in 24 before the reappraisal. Here's where you're going to be after reappraisal and if those new levies pass, but not for a couple of years out. Here, it's partly layered in here in 2025. The rest of it will be layered in 2026. But when we set these levies up, again, they're designed to raise a fixed dollar amount, okay? A fixed dollar amount, and we set the levy calculation, the effective millage, based on whatever the total valuation is in the city of North Canton, we set the millage to only raise that dollar amount that the voters agreed to when they passed the levy. So that was more than 5 minutes, but taxes are complicated. Robert could have me run in circles around this,
Wow.
for days on end, and he has. So, all right, what questions? Alan's primer and property taxes, right there. So,
That was a lot.
Yeah, thank you for
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
that's a lot, yeah.
That was
yeah.
excellent.
A lot going on right there. So we welcome people, I'll gladly take questions from council, from the administration, but we would welcome the public to call down to our office, and we can talk it through it individually on their property right here. They can go on our website, do the tax estimator on their own parcel, find out what this will cost them as well too. But again, we're glad to answer any questions that you have.
I have to say that the website is very helpful,
Thank you.
and explaining to people how to get on the website and to look at their individual taxes has
Yeah.
also been helpful.
Yeah.
I was curious though, you said 24,000 sales
Mhm.
were analyzed.
Mhm.
For this 3-year deal, how many hours does it take?
It doesn't take the
Just
computer
total-
too long.
How many total hours do you put into this project?
We have already started working on the triennial update for 2027. So as we
Just
finish
wondered.
this work right now, it's not something that we just started at the beginning of the year. We start our work, we look at our processes, what went well, what went not, what didn't go well. We're already looking at the sales data, that has really come in since July this year, and beginning to plan ahead a little bit too, so.
How many individuals have come and asked you to explain it to them or to question your results?
We had over 6,000 unique encounters here, and maybe close to 7,500 parcels. So a lot of those are multiples in that. We're just about done with our work in terms of getting back to people and letting them know the results of, if they ask us to change this.
How often do you change it?
Often enough, I think,
Okay.
so. But the market's the dictator, right? The market's the dictator on what goes on, and we don't go into people's houses and
Yeah.
that. So a lot of times, I'd say truthfully, it's very, very humbling when we hear from people and they open up their home, or they show us pictures, or they talk about the condition of their property, to hear that, if I had to put this on the market, I just can't get it done. The roof needs to, these are things that we don't know because we don't go inside. So it's very, very humbling, truthfully, for people to open up to us in the way that they do, and to be as honest as they are, and for us to be also honest back to say, even if it's in this way, we still think X, or just say, we're going to have to help you out here a little bit. So,
Ellen,
yes, Mayor.
it's $69 approximately per 100,000.
$70 on the new.
Okay.
Yep.
So if I have a $300,000 home, what would that cost me?
$300,000 home, so $210,000. Well, 2 mils, right?
Yeah.
But see, the trick is, right, it's going to be these 2 mils on this, so that's going to be about $210 less whatever you were paying already right here. So on street improvements, so it'd be 3 times that amount, so about 101. So the difference is going to be between these two is what you pay. So in that instance, about a couple $100 is what the change would be.
So it's going to cost me a couple $100 a year
On a $300,000.
on a $300,000.
Yeah, net on the street levy.
Right.
Yeah.
For supporting our streets.
For supporting your streets, yep.
And then for the fire station?
For the fire station on a $300,000, that's 2 mils, so it's gonna be same, it's gonna be about that same, $210,000, or $210.
It's under $1 a day.
That is, yeah,
Okay.
even I can do that.
I'm not testing you, but thank you very
No,
much.
that's
I think
okay.
I was just trying to make a point that,
Yeah.
we're trying to make this affordable for our community.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
Sure, I understand. Other questions?
No,
I know you have a
fantastic
lot on your
presentation.
agenda today, but thank you, and I'd certainly welcome you to call, working with Jim, working with Gina, working with Catherine, regularly. I know they work with our staff quite a bit, and so we're very pleased and proud to work with them every day. They do a great job representing you and your interests when they come to the county. Mayor, thank you, and to those on council, thanks for what you do. And have a good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Maureen Atter and Becky DeHart of Arts and Starks. Arts and Starks, sorry.
Eater.
Eater, sorry.
Yeah, somebody can have that in
Good evening, members of council, mayor.
Hey, Maureen, good.
Our presentation will have no numbers. I promise. Please don't make us do any calculations. So before I hand this over to Becky, I just wanted to thank you all. This came out of a conversation that we had with Councilwoman Warren, and she said, why don't we start by speaking with council? And so let me first of all kind of give a short explanation of what Arts and Stark is for those of you who do not know. Arts and Stark is the county's arts council. And so arts councils exist in many different municipalities. Ours happens to be a county council. We are a nonprofit organization. We have kind of three things that we're most known for. First and foremost, we're the owners and operators of the Cultural Center for the Arts. That's how we were first started. Over time, we became the Arts Council, but we still continue to maintain the Cultural Center for the Arts located in downtown Canton, which is also home to 4 resident arts groups now and open to the public for events and all different types of things. Next, one of our mission elements is to fundraise and give grants as a result of that. So we run the Campaign for the Arts, which is a countywide fundraising campaign. Those funds are then reinvested into arts organizations. We have several different ways that we reinvest those funds. It goes to the 7 major arts groups. It helps fund the Cultural Center. We do a number of grants programs for individual artists, nonprofits, and so on. And Becky will talk about some of the programs that it funds right here in North Canton. And then we are also responsible for public art initiatives. And so whether it's an installation of public art pieces or events that happen throughout the county, those are oftentimes run through Arts and Stark, paid for through Arts and Stark, or we help cobble together the funds for those types of things. And Arts Council is significant because we're kind of the glue that brings together a lot of individual artists, individual organizations, to be able to deliver an arts vision for a county. And I think it's really, really important to let you all know, if you haven't heard this statistic, those of you that I know have probably heard this before. Last year, Stark County was named as the 8th most arts vibrant mid-sized community in the United States. So a lot of the work that's done in our community is significant and is seen on a national level. We are very blessed to have a lot of arts in our community. And one of the reasons we're here tonight is because we want to do even more, especially here in North Canton.
Yeah, and as Mo mentioned, we do have some really great touch points in North Canton already. So our SMARTS program is in the North Canton City Schools. Our SMARTS program is an arts integration program where we work with the classroom teacher to identify their classroom goals and then pair them with a teaching artist to help strengthen that learning. So think using visual arts to help teach geometry or using music to teach science. So we're really pleased that we're able to offer that here in North Canton. We also did just award one of our Arts Impact grants for $7,500 to the Danbury Senior Living Center in partnership with the Canton Ballet. So what they'll do is they'll bring their Senior Swans program into the facility and teach ballet to the senior residents there. So we are really thrilled and honored to be part of that work. But we really realized that it's time to kind of refocus and have more connection. Have more connection in all of Stark County and especially here in North Canton as well. So we've started these conversations in some other communities. We've been working with Alliance to get some of these conversations going, but we wanted to start here with you tonight too, to talk to how we can engage in a deeper level with North Canton.
So North Canton and Alliance are 2 of the communities that we've started with. We'll be calling on local leaders to come together for community conversations where it's more of a listening tour of what do you, as North Canton residents, want to see out of the arts. This is not Arts and Start coming to North Canton and say, put art there, do this here. That's not our job. And so per Stephanie's, Councilwoman Waring's recommendation, she said, why don't you start here with council? At least let them know that you're going to be starting these conversations, and then we're going to be following up with each of you with recommendations of who you think should be at the table for these types of discussions. No obligation. Again, this is more of a listening tour. We want to know, what does North Canton want to see so that we can start to vision out and invest over the next few years what we need to see in North Canton.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I think when we talked too, it was just, I mean, even when you gave the Danbury example, like, we don't know those things are happening, and we certainly don't know it's provided by Arts and Start. And a lot of times people think that you are just the cultural center. So they're like, oh, we don't even use it, why would we care? And your outreach, I mean, I see your videos, I see your slides, and I know the impact to economic drivers, like, it matters. And we see our own community surveys, and they all talk about community spaces and arts and parks. I mean, it's one of their leading components. So if we could partner on some of those aspects, and I mean, you do so many things so well that we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And why are we not partnering? Christina Wyrick, who couldn't be here tonight, she works with the library, and they're doing so much of that. So, like, she comes to mind immediately. You have to partner with them. I mean, even your grant program. I think a lot of us are probably sitting here going, I didn't even know they did these kind of grants. And talk about those grants. They named the one, but the grants that they help and the things that they've contributed to the community are amazing. So
I think it's important to point out too, our grants program, the grants program that we fund is really two-part. One is operational grants. We're the only operational funder in the county of arts programs. So we fund operations of 7 major arts groups, and that includes like the Blue Coats, who are actually located here in North Canton. That includes Canton Museum of Art, Massillon Museum, Canton Palace Theater, and so on. The smaller grants program is really open to all. It's project-based, and so we always want to make sure that people in the communities know that they can apply for these grants. Another grants program that we have is actually a partnership we have with the county commissioners. We're the only county in the state of Ohio that has a partnership with an arts council, the Visitors Bureau, and the county commissioners. So a small portion of the bed tax here in Stark County is reinvested into cultural tourism dollars. The bottom line, last year, the economic impact of cultural tourism was $21 million in Stark County. So it is business to our county. But we reinvest close to $400,000 just in those cultural tourism efforts. And so it's festivals, it's exhibitions, it's things that we know are attracting people from outside of the county into our communities. And North Canton can absolutely apply for those grants, or organizations in North Canton can apply for those grants. Those are up to $20,000 each.
Maureen, can you talk about any of the cool things that are coming to Arts and Stark in the coming months? I mean, that's what we forget too, is we are all crossing boundaries all the time. And thank goodness, we had an amazing Main Street Festival. We have our beer fest. Like, people are coming all over, everywhere. So what else is happening around the community that we should be aware of? That's pretty neat. I know.
How much time?
Okay,
do you
just
have?
that's 2 weeks.
Well, before I start listing off everything, I would really encourage everyone here, and I'll make sure to send an email after all of this, that you receive what's called Art Pass. It is a comprehensive monthly email that connects you with every arts and culture event that we could possibly garner into one piece. So from toddlers to seniors, there are layers upon layers of events, low cost, no cost arts and culture events that are available to everyone. And so again, that's another service that we want to make sure we're connecting with organizations and institutions in North Canton to make sure that those are included in it.
Yeah.
We have a great partnership with the library, so we always make sure to include those in that as well. But we try to be everywhere. We're not everywhere. That's why we're kind of refocusing on specific communities. And right now we're starting with Alliance in North Canton.
I think the Heart Gallery at Malone University is on
Is it
November the
really
4th
beautiful?
from 5 to 7:30.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
No, I'll let you. But I know that you're sponsor of that.
Yes,
And
we
that's,
are. So the
something
Art
that's-
Gallery
Yeah.
actually recruits local artists
Yes.
to create pieces of art that are inspired by children who are in the adoption system. And so the pieces are on display, and the Malone Gallery is a beautiful space on Malone's campus. A lot of people don't realize that we have great galleries on every single university campus in our county. And so they'll be featuring it. They'll have a great opening night. It will be on display, I think, for about a month or two, if I remember right.
It's free.
And it's free. It's free. That's right. You know, the Blue Coats had a full-page article in the Wall Street Journal. The Maslin Museum was featured in Smithsonian Magazine for their most recent exhibit. I don't think we realize in Stark County how the world looks at us and how lucky we are to have the arts and culture that we have. But we want to make it even better, especially in this community. So the follow-up here is we'll be sending an email to each of you. We want to make sure that you're engaged with what's going on in the arts community throughout the county. But we'll also be gathering any names that you think of people that might be interested in sitting down to have a discussion and inviting you all to any of these community conversations that we'll be having. So start thinking about arts ideas, and we're looking forward to meeting with all of you.
Thank you
Thanks so
very
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ware.
I want to get that arts pass into everybody's hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just to sign up on an email.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay, so nobody signed up for the first public speak, so we'll go right into old business. Liam, would you please read the title of ordinance 57-2024?
An ordinance finalizing the annexation of two parcels owned by the City of North Canton located on Whipple Avenue Northwest, Wise Avenue Northwest, and West Maple Street by establishing the zoning of the parcels as General Business B and establishing the City Council voting wards as Ward 1 and Ward 4.
Okay, this is the third reading. There's nothing new here. If you look up on the map, that is what it is. Any questions, comments? Nothing new. I'm gonna make a motion to adopt third reading of ordinance 57-2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Liam, would you please read the title of ordinance 81-2024?
An ordinance authorizing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures and related one-time permanent transfers of monies made to various funds for the period beginning January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st, 2025.
Stephanie.
One second.
Find it on here too. Let's see.
So what we're doing is talking about our budget for the next year again. And Councilman Matheny last time asked us to take a more serious look at that budget and kind of look at some things that maybe were completely necessary and maybe not as much necessary, and to work at bringing that down. And I think he had, a number of us thought you had some really great points with that. And Matt and I ended up meeting with Ben and our finance director, Gina.
Wait, what was going on?
Sorry.
You ended up meeting with Ben
And our finance director.
and Judah.
And we came up with a list that we'd love to kind of go over with you. In the meantime, we've had some other discussions with other individuals and have maybe thought of a few other issues. But I think this is a year that it's really important to look at those. We are asking our community, like you said, Mayor, to help us fund.
Yeah.
And so we also need to be very cognizant of the expenses that we have and take a serious look at that. And we had a number of councilmen last year that said, I'm not gonna pass a budget that isn't balanced. And did you find it yet? Nope. And so I wanted to share, Liam, do you have that sheet that has the highlighted?
I have the sheet if you want me to.
Yes, I would love that. I have it on my phone. And I wish we could have put that on the screen. That was my fault entirely. Okay, so when we sat down with Gina and Ben, there were some kind of obvious ones, and you had even mentioned that last week. And I think you had mentioned the windows here.
I think I mentioned the Arrowhead upgrades
Yes.
to the men's
To the,
shower.
Yes, and that was, I believe, 75,000.
Yes.
Okay, so upon from that, I think we got up to almost 125 when we left, I felt like. Because I think we looked at the windows in here and that was another. So in addition to that, we were looking at the stealth state to speed monitoring devices, that's from police. The next three items are from the Dogwood Shelter, the new front walk entrance, the lawn irrigation, the new ADA sidewalk. Another one from the Dogwood Pool, replaced the umbrellas. From the parks, the Eastwoods Pavilion roof. From the Civic Center, we already mentioned, was the 50. So as Dave had mentioned earlier, that was the 75 for the men's bath house and restrooms. And then the 50 from there got us to 125. Another from Arrowhead were the event tables. From the buildings outside of the, on the corner there, the releveling and repoly sand repair of the courtyard area, right on the corner there on Main. The ballistic plates, carriers and helmets, this is from EMS. The SRT team member equipment, because with that, you also have some overtime that can be incurred when they go out to do those. One possible item, and Matt and I were talking about this today, is possibly one of the police vehicles. Which would possibly be 75 if we feel like we're too heavy on some of the park items. And then we were also talking, I've talked with a couple people in administration, just about looking at our personnel again and looking at all departments. I know when I started 12 years ago, we had quite a few fewer employees. I know that there was a ramp up, and I remember, what the old administrator would say with that. You can't do business without people. I get that. However, I think it makes sense to just look at those again as we move forward, and think about where that personnel is.
Yeah,
Yes.
Can I don't have it in front of me, but for the capital, like the capital items, the 330 at the bottom.
I know.
Okay, I just wanted to say, we can't,
Explain
so
that.
we transfer income tax, we have to transfer income tax approximately $2,125,000 to capital, city ordinance. So if we're getting rid of the 330 capital items,
Yes.
then we would have to move from the general fund.
I knew that.
Okay, I just wanted to note that.
On the personnel issue, I wonder if there's availability there, since we've sold several properties of maintenance that used to take place that may not be taking place, and there may be opportunities through attrition or part-time people that are no longer needed, since we've sold some properties that required a lot of maintenance.
And I thought since it was only the second reading, it gives us time for you to still take a look, go back to your departments and say, is there a spot where there could be some either attrition or it's just not working or, something.
I'm absolutely open to, making any adjustments where necessary, to get us back on track financially. I think just we have to keep in mind when we do cut with some of the personnel staff, maybe some of the services that were provided, we'll have to be okay with that.
Right.
So with the extra staff came some extra things. And so that'll be a conversation we'll have to have, is that, this may not be able to continue. And then if we're
Right.
good with that, then, we can talk. There's not too much part-time,
Yes.
I heard you mention that. We have a lot full-time. We really didn't have much part-time
No.
staff.
Okay. Matt, had we talked, were there other things I can't remember? Or Jim, anything that Gina had said to you?
She's just told me the highlighted things are there, all the options.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think you covered that well.
I know one thing we were looking at, when we were talking about the dog, and I know everyone loves the beloved dog, but it does cost money, as all dogs. Anyone who's a pet owner knows that dogs cost money. So we do have to think about that. And it's probably, would you say, $10,000 to $15,000 extra that truly hits our budget for the dog as far as overtime and different needs?
In compensation to the officer for the care of the
Yeah,
dog.
in compensation to the officer. So I know Matt and I had, talked about that too, and we know how much the dog is loved, and maybe there's ways that outside support could help fund that. I know that, he.
How dare you?
I know, I'm sorry. Spends a lot of time at the schools, and I understand that, but it's a luxury, that is a luxury item.
But see, I don't know that it's necessarily a luxury. I mean, I've had the opportunity to talk with a number of our officers, including the officer who has Kona, and I've heard stories about the real true benefit of the dog is a therapy dog. It's not a drug sniffing dog. It's not a canine that's going to go chase after a perp, let's say. It's there specifically for one of our SROs as a therapy, as they're talking to a child who maybe was abused and maybe they need something furry and funny, and I see kids open up to dogs. I've heard stories about how beneficial Kona is. I think that it would be wrong to kick the dog to the curb.
I don't want to kick it to
that's-
the curb.
Okay,
That's not it.
but
No.
okay. Oh,
I'm
I
saying,
thought
are
that's
there
where you were
fines?
going, so.
No. Sorry.
I
No.
thought that's where you were going.
No.
So I will
It's too
say,
bad.
a lot of communities do support them privately. So they'll create like a fundraiser for Kona or something like that. And our
I mean,
community
but
would be
that's how-
very open.
But
to
that's
it.
how the dog got the name.
Sure,
So,
right.
okay.
Yeah, but then what
The
happened
ongoing
after
support.
that? I mean, there's ongoing support where, other communities, sometimes their PTOs, PTAs
Yeah.
will do fundraisers.
Because it is at
or
the school
things like
mostly. So is that, again, you have to think of our responsibilities and what are they?
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Are we supposed to have a dog that provides therapy? I understand there's police dogs. I've seen them. I see them on TV. I see what police do with them. Is that our job, to have a therapy dog? I mean, I just recently heard that someone called dispatch and a 4-year-old was having an issue. And they called in the dog, and the officer and the dog, helped that situation. I'm not sure that's what that dog is supposed to be used for, especially when it was overtime.
That's exactly what it's supposed to be.
We're
used for.
supposed
It's
to call
be a
in.
therapy
But guys,
dog,
one
yeah.
at a time,
For a
please.
4-year-old child, so someone calls in and has a 4-year-old child that's having an issue, and then dispatch calls in the policeman and the dog for overtime? From Jackson Township?
Oh, it went to Jackson Township?
That's where he lives?
No, he lives with
No,
an
he-
officer in North Canton.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
I
okay.
was gonna say, yeah.
But I
That's
don't
the
know
pur-
if that's
But that's the
our
purpose
duty.
of the dog. It's,
Then is that what we need to be providing?
what do you mean?
I don't know if that's our job as
That's
as
tough. You
resources.
get into a tough line there. I mean, there's cities that have de-escalation that they start to fund, and
Yeah.
they put psychiatrists on
Right.
for
We saw that when we
120,000. I
toured
mean,
the,
Yeah.
Guys, I can't
dispatch.
hear what anybody's saying when you all talk at the same time, I'm sorry.
so I mean, we should have conversations establishing, what is supposed to be done there, because it
Yeah.
could lead to a whole nother service that we frankly can't afford. So I mean, that's tough. No one disputes the benefits of the dog. It's just the cost of, we have to look at the cost of everything right now.
I guess I look at something like Kona providing a dog that provides the services that it does. What's our cost to not having that dog? What,
Sure.
so there's costs associated on both ends. So the other one I bring up I guess I have questions about, and this might go back to years before I was on council, is the elimination of a police car. These cars get, a considerable amount of mileage on them. They're on, almost 24/7? I mean, they're running almost 24/7. So they are heavily used vehicles, and
They are.
I guess, yes, it sounds like an easy thing to say, let's postpone a car 1 year, let's say, but then does that mean increased maintenance? Does that mean that vehicle then falls off of warranty and now we're paying, so it might sound like it's a very easy, what do you say, $75,000? Okay, it might sound on paper like it's a $75,000 cut, but what are the other costs associated with delaying that? There will certainly be increased maintenance, and so it may not be 75.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's only a temporary saving.
Well, let's look at the schedule. I mean, there's a schedule. So,
We're getting
yeah.
back on the schedule though, correct? But, so how long, or Chief or Mayor, do you remember, how long has it been that you've been getting 2 new cars per year?
We ran into a dry spell with COVID. Through the first year of COVID, we didn't buy any cars. The year after COVID, as we were coming out of it, we attempted to buy cars, and we were waitlisted for another year. We've just sort of gotten back onto a regular rotation with them. With the vehicles, what we've seen is when you hit that 70,000 mile plus era, the way that we run the vehicles, the higher the mileage goes, the more likely you could have a hard year where you'll spend a third of the cost of a new cruiser on maintenance items. If you have to do a transmission, or if we have a motor mount that goes bad that's not under warranty. We do track all that. We do try to keep regular maintenance. We have gotten back to the rotation now where I believe the fire department has used a couple of our older cruisers that have been repurposed. We try to keep them in a 2 to 2.5 year rotation on the road. Then they go to the extra use as an SRO car, as a court traffic car, or repurposed to another department that just needs it for an 8-hour shift to run around.
How many miles do you put on a cruiser a year? Ballpark.
Probably 30.
Because he said 2
And
years,
that's-
70.
Yeah, and that's a significant amount of miles. Yeah, that's a good point. He did say 2 years, 70, yeah.
I
That's
think more importantly, though, is the number of hours that vehicle is running.
Correct.
Because they leave them running all the time. So it's not necessarily how many miles the tires have turned.
correct.
It's how many hours that engine's been running.
We had been on a rotation of a 3-year rotation, 2, 2, 3, then back to the 2, 2, 3 is what we had evolved to. Right now, we've just been doing 2s.
So this could be a 3-year, possibly.
On that list,
And this is where we only asked for 2 cars. We took a serious look at that at the beginning of it.
But don't you normally only ask for 2 cars?
He said sometimes
We
they do 3.
2, 1, we are in a 3-year rotation. 2 1 year, 2 1 year, 3
Sorry,
the 3rd
I
year.
misunderstood.
And then we go to that, we do a rotation like that because we had 7 cruisers. We are extending our fleet a little bit, hopefully the 8th vehicle, so that we can try to put less continual mileage on the vehicles and spread the officers out among the vehicles a little bit more to get some downtime and rest time for those vehicles. So that's where we dropped that. We were requesting 2 for this year. But it's definitely something that I can discuss with administration.
Yeah, I'd love to see the paperwork, like how much did it cost to, when we were going through COVID the next year, did it cost to just fix the cars, or, was it a 3rd, was it a 5th? Again, we're just looking at all expenses, and that's a large one. And so much of this, we are taking away from community services and other needs. So I'm just trying to weigh the needs of truly all the departments.
I guess I look at it as, I don't necessarily argue about umbrellas at Dogwood, which, we don't need to belabor the point. We all know the direction Dogwood just may be going. But the police cruisers, that is a service that we really should be providing. And, if we eliminate 1 car this year, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, that means we're at minimum looking at 3 cars next year to catch back up, in theory, right?
We could examine this year and see where we're falling at mileage-wise with the cars.
Okay. Okay.
Jim, you had mentioned earlier about those in the capital budget. How's that going to roll into the general fund where we need to make the corrections?
So if you cut a capital item, we still have to transfer that income tax money, right,
Right.
regardless. So you have to move what we have in the general fund, the capital items in general fund, right? Those in finance, we would move them to the 330 now. So that's where it comes into, it's almost like a dollar for dollar, right?
Yes.
So if you cut $200,000 in the 330 fund, you have to move $200,000 from the general fund capital to 330, if that makes sense.
So in essence, it's not helping the general fund.
It is.
It is, you're cutting,
Yes, it
you're
is.
cutting
There's
that
so many here
capital.
that are highlighted.
And
Any
you're
cut
moving,
helps, I mean.
you're cutting the capital and you're moving another item that's already in the budget to the capital fund.
Okay,
There's a lot of items that aren't highlighted, so those would just move over.
okay. I wanted to make sure that we're
Yeah.
hitting the
Right,
target. And that's the
it's
general.
just the amount, right?
Yeah.
You don't wanna,
Because we're required to move so much into capital.
yes,
Right.
and this year it's 2,125,000.
And as they explained in the meeting, when you're moving those items into capital, they look at the largest items typically first, but there isn't a rule or a way that they're moved in. So the umbrellas could have been moved into there, but they weren't because these are kind of just items that didn't make it. You know, they weren't the larger ticket items.
And we were way over on the capital carry. Weren't we at 36%
Yeah.
on the capital carryover where the requirement is 25?
Right, we're at,
That's good.
I have it on the sheet, yeah, we're pretty good carryover.
Jim, do you remember what the total was for all this?
Every,
No, the ones that were highlighted?
if you give me it back, I can calculate it real quick.
Yeah. I forget because I know we added something else and then would you say an average cost if we were able to look at personnel? An average? Is there an average? Is that just too hard?
I like to say if you could do an average, probably 100,000, give or
Okay.
take 20,000, because you have your health insurance and OPERS.
Okay.
Health insurance and what?
OPERS, pension.
On the personnel
Whatever.
side, is that going to run into issues with union contracts?
You would just have to follow what it says.
Okay. So as you're looking at
Typically,
possibility, we need to know what the net effect's going to be based on the union contract.
Yes.
Okay.
Going back to the dog is a vital piece. It's good. My wife was a librarian at the middle school and was in special ed for 23 years. So that dog brought up a lot of good work.
The dog's
But-
new. We
Well,
haven't had a dog that
No,
long.
but she just retired,
Oh,
so she
okay.
got to see a lot, and there's a lot of stories behind,
As
what
as
goes
there
on.
always are with dogs.
But, maybe it's something the school picks up.
Yeah.
The dog's probably the most popular figure in the city. If it ran for mayor, no offense, Steve,
It is.
it might win.
Hey, it is, but
It
let's
is.
be
Wow.
clear about the
Well, I
cost.
agree.
That's the
But
thing.
My point is.
I just want to be clear
I think
with
the
cost.
community will help support the dog. And
I
there's
would love that.
maybe it can do more things. Maybe we raise more money to help where it can go into other avenues where it can help with
Right.
therapy and things
We
like
put a
that.
sponsorship on just about everything at the school.
Right.
This dog's sponsored by
Right, yeah.
such and such company.
By John Orr.
Wear a little collar.
Yeah.
Hi, John Orr. Yes.
I'm a retiree.
No excuses. We love the dog.
If I may add, I don't want to downplay our situation, but again, you all were a part of it, and I want to thank our department heads for making the department cuts to even come to you for your review and our review too. So here we are at another stage as we're trying to reduce our deficit, and I understand the strength of our city revenue depends largely on our local tax base too. And that I like to see the list also when I can confer with Catherine and Gina and Tim. I'm also, because I want to look at, did you mention overtime in your concerns? Maybe even travel restrictions, little things, all that up. You presented that today. But I'm also thinking about something that we haven't talked about. And again, we need to look at too, how can we, I just wrote a couple notes for myself, what revenue enhancing tactics can we have? And again, I think we really need to look at our increased reliance on grants to help us out. David talked about our asset sales. I feel strong that we'll be able to move forward in the coming year, if not the rest of this year, with selling some of our assets and helping to reduce our debt. And I think we've already kind of looked at some fee increases over the last couple years, with water, and I think we had, a small one with garbage, I think. So, so those things I think we still need to look at. Could be even for our rental properties. Do we have to increase our fees to be competitive with other communities? So those, as much as I'm thinking about cuts, I'm also trying to think what
How
revenue
else?
ways,
Yeah.
and I think that's the other part of the stabilization of our budget. And I think in one way, I feel we're blessed to be in the community we are, and compared to other cities our size in the state or even around the country who may be facing greater deficits than we have. But I feel confident that as we go forward, we'll whittle this down and looking into next year with bringing in maybe almost 1,000 employees, when you think about it, this last year, with the influx of employees for Diebold and the development of the area on the northwest corner of North Main and Apple Grove. I mean, there's more employees coming in there. Hopefully, that will generate a greater income base for us, income tax base. So you've come to us with a number of things to think about and what we can do to balance the budget this year, because we don't want to have to keep relying on our reserves. And so I understand the challenges before us.
Yeah,
So you asked about the number, so it's about 300,000.
about 300,000?
Yeah,
Thank you.
of all the items that were highlighted, mentioned, that's what the one police vehicle that you mentioned, so the other items that we did not highlight and you spoke of, well, then we'd have to move 75,000 of those items to.
Yep, okay. Well, and Mayor, you bring up a good point. I mean, the departments have done a tremendous job of already cutting. But I think, and, you know, you look at the possible tax implication a little bit, that's gonna increase everybody. And I think it's important that we also do the same with our budget, and that we are mindful of all the dollars.
I agree.
But I love too, Jim and Gina and your whole department and everybody seem to work together, and we end up being able to do a lot of the projects in the end, possibly because of some resources that we have. So we'll hope for that.
We'll get there. I feel like there's especially,
Next year.
our chair of parks is not here tonight, and I know she hates that so much is cut from parks, but you know, we're in a regrouping year.
Yeah.
Where we're gonna do the park master plan, we're gonna look at everything that we have, we're gonna look what the community wants, that may lead to a park levy, so that we can have a funding, an actually dedicated funding source for parks, and then we can add those things back in. And we're looking to increase the rental rates on the revenue of the facilities, like this building. And like, you know, we have had to cut some things out, like we've had to cut the updates to Dogwood Shelter.
Right.
But once we can, you know, once we can get more revenue coming in from these rentals, then we can look at putting more money in.
Well, and
So I know the windows in here were looked at, was that cut or is
That's
that
cut.
still?
Yeah, that's cut.
That is
Cut.
cut, okay, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too, and you did a great job with that, is the consulting that we did with the firehouse and making that more affordable. Not the firehouse, sorry, the firemen. And all the staffing and the issues, and saving a lot of dollars, and even enabling us to put 2 lieutenants on. So,
And providing more safety.
yes.
because of that.
I'd also like to say, you know, something to, the mayor brought up. Now, on the finance side, it's hard to quantify the amount of income tax that'll be brought in from new businesses and jobs. So, and, you know, finance, we're pretty conservative. So, you know, we may get lucky and it'd be, you know, quite a bit more than we
Yeah.
budget, right? Which is something that we don't want to budget too much, you know, overstate revenue, right? So.
I appreciate that you guys are conservative in your viewpoint. I mean, that's a good thing, though. That's helpful. What was the total number? I meant to write that
About
down.
300,000.
Okay.
I calculated 297.
I think that gets us real close to where we should be, the conservative estimates for revenue, the things that don't necessarily actually happen this year that gets rolled into next year that does not get spent.
Yeah.
Historically, that has been the case. I think with that, I could support a budget that's at 500,000. A little bit overspending, but realistically, it'll come in.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that brings us a lot closer to being on track.
Appreciate the work that council members have put into this. It's not an easy task. Every year is a challenge.
I know.
And as Ms. Warren stated, you know, we appreciate what the department heads have done. But there are things that we need to maintain, and the residents said they wanted safety to be the #1 issue. So we need to keep that in our sights.
Yep.
But at the same time, to quote Mr. Young from last week, it's So our city is facing two separate but equally important budget challenges. Number one is our operating budget. We've been continually overspending our revenues for several years. So basically what that means is we're spending from our savings account to fund our operations each year. I think with these changes, we're not going to be overspending. That makes 25 a good year.
That's true.
Yep.
Okay, so we will come back for the third reading. So maybe next time we can have all those marked and considered. Catherine, you're going to take a look at kind of all the personnel and just see where we are and if there are other options. And then Chief, thank you so much for getting some of those numbers and working with us and being understanding with vehicles and needs and just seeing where it runs. And someone can take on the Kono fundraising. I think it would take much, actually. I am gonna look at John. He said he's retired. I think that's a perfect job. John, look how much you walk around the neighborhood. You just take a bucket and you can get enough money to probably for years to come. Well, Kono babies. All right. So I need a motion and a second to adopt the second reading of ordinance, 81-2024.
Stroya moves.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Liam, would you please read the title of Resolution 82, 2024?
A resolution to acknowledge the rates and fees used to establish the budget for the 2025 fiscal year.
Okay, these are just rates, and we've already looked at them. Rates and fees, we always look at them for the next year, and we've already done this. It's just very an annual thing we do each year. Any questions or issues? All right, if none, I move to adopt the motion to adopt the second reading of Resolution 82-2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Liam, would you please read the title of Ordinance 83, 2024?
An ordinance approving, confirming, and accepting perpetual waterline easements on the properties known as parcel numbers 100-18563 and 100-18564, located in the city of North Canton, Stark County, Ohio, by and between the city of North Canton and Ohio Charter Municipal Corporation, grantee, and Mag Family Holdings, LLC, grantor.
Okay, Jamie, formerly Rubbish.
All right, well, we've talked about this on a couple occasions, and to my knowledge, nothing has changed. So, does anybody has any questions, comments, or threats? Hopefully no threats. I would make the motion that we adopt the second reading of Ordinance 83, 2024.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Is that the last one on that? Did I lose that? Okay. There we go. There we go. Liam, would you please read the title of Resolution 84, 2024?
Resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay, finance and property.
Okay. This is kind of what Alan just talked about. So we have done this, and we're ready to go.
Just an every year thing for.
I'm sorry, what?
Just an every year thing.
Yeah.
For everything, so
Okay, any other things?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
All right, so motion to adopt the first reading of Resolution 84-2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'm going to make a motion to adopt Resolution 84, 2024 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Liam, would you please read the title of Ordinance 85, 2024?
An ordinance authorizing appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures and related one-time permanent transfers of monies made to various funds for the period beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024.
All right, Stephanie.
Okay, again, just typical transfers that we do typically, really every single month. Jim, anything that you want to talk about that's notable or significant?
Yep, so we're just truing up the budget, getting close to the year end, which I think we'll talk about next in terms of appropriations for us to be able to finish the year. But this one is budget amendments as of today. We're doing some transfers from the sale of 2 properties, so we're recording that. We're going to be recording the money from CSB Bank and Post Office, and then transferring that to the capital fund. So that's really the main piece of this.
Okay, so again, just typical transfers that happen every month to trip the budget. Any issues or concerns? All right, a motion and second to adopt the first reading of ordinance 85-2024.
Is there a motion?
Yep, motion, yes,
Second.
you know I used that up, yes.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Motion carries. I'll make the motion to suspend the rules of council requiring 3 readings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance 85-2024 under suspension of the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Liam, would you please read the title of ordinance 86-2024?
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance of the City of North Canton to make final appropriation amendments for current expenses and related one-time advances and/or permanent transfers of monies made to various funds needed during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and within the available resources in order to balance and close the fiscal year.
Okay, so looking at ordinance 86-2024, what Liam just read is exactly what it is. And the important part is in order to balance and close the fiscal year, and that's what we're doing.
So similar to what we just approved, you're just allowing finance to make the appropriate adjustments to balance the fiscal year 2024, to close out the fiscal year 2024.
Okay. A motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance 86-2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Liam, if you want to read the preamble for the last public speaks.
At this time, members of the public who have signed up to address City Council will be called to do so. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. Speakers shall be called in the order they signed up. During this section, comments shall be limited to items reasonably under the city's authority. The rules for speaking and the speaker's time will appear on the screens. After you have finished speaking, please remain at the podium to answer questions from officials of the dais. This will serve as the final warning for all speakers. Any violation of the rules will result in ejection from the premises.
Okay, so we have one speaker, Joe Pucci.
Can you spell your last name for me, please?
P-U-C-C-I.
Thank you.
The only reason I'm up here is I just wanted to
Joe,
talk.
if you could just state your name and
Oh. Joe
please.
Pucci, and I live at 1350 East Maple Street, North Canton, Ohio. And I guess really, I talked to Alan beforehand, and he actually answered a couple of my questions, because I tried to call down there, and the guys down there didn't give me very good answers, so I got a little bit of it straightened out from him. But, and again, I agree with everybody here that we need to do something about the budget, because we're spending way too much money on stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that can be cut. But my main thing is I'm calling about taxes, or talking about taxes, is because, you know, I got on the website for the Stark County Auditor, and they used to list the tax distribution on there. When you punched it up, you could see where, you know, all your different amounts went to different things. Well, they don't have that on there now. And I think it should be on there, because that's what's gonna let me decide if I vote yes or no for the levies. But he says they don't have it calculated, so they can't show it now. But me going through stuff on there, they do have a thing on there where it says tax estimator. And I went through and I punched up 5 properties in North Canton. Mine personally, and I have family members that live here, plus just a couple other of them, and I picked them up, and I got the totals, and Of those 5 properties, the total came to like $1,400 in just increased tax amount for those properties. So I took that, divided by 5, got $270 approximately per household. There's almost 8,000 properties, personal households in North Canton. So I took the 8,000 times the $270, I'm up to almost $2.2 million in new tax money that's coming in. But talking to Alan, again, I understand, he's telling me only 10% of that amount goes to the city. 2/3 of it goes to the schools. I hope the people in North Canton know that, but that was one thing, okay? So I went and did businesses in North Canton. Took 5 businesses in North Canton. Took what their estimated tax was gonna be for next year on just increased taxes with the new rates, appraisals. I came up with, let's see here, almost $18,000 for 5 properties in North Canton. Those are commercial properties, businesses. That's $3,700 per business. I don't know how many businesses are in North Canton, 500, maybe? That's $1.8 million. Okay, right there, you're looking at $4 million just in increased money that you're gonna get next year just from the appraisals, all right? So I understand maybe it's only 10%, which I'm trying to get the tax distribution so I can see where it's going exactly. But that's why I'm hearing from a lot of people that, why do we need all these taxes? Why do we need this? Because of, what you're getting and stuff, what these new tax rates are gonna be. One of them I looked at, then I started going through with the levies when they pass. When it got to when the levies passed, it was unbelievable. One of the properties I checked on, Giant Eagle, you're gonna be getting, with the levies and the tax increase just for the reappraisal, almost $20,000 just from Giant Eagle alone. Giant Eagle isn't gonna pay that, and I know DeHoff isn't gonna pay it, so they're gonna pass it on to the tenants. The tenants pay the taxes. What are they gonna do? They're gonna raise all their prices. Who's gonna pay for it? The public. So we're not just getting a new tax increase, we're getting a cost of living increase too, because all the tenants are gonna be paying higher prices on all this. Some of the other properties, like I say, just some of the property, it was just unbelievable what, if the levies pass, how much they're gonna be paying. Let's see, apartment complex, yeah, corner of Rose Lane and Cleveland Avenue. They're gonna be paying $3,000 with the levies passed. They're not paying it, they're gonna pass it on to the tenants. What else do I got here? Nursing home, down the street from me, it's gonna be paying probably $4,500 more a year. They're not paying it. They're gonna pass it on to the citizens that are staying there, so. We're gonna just, so I think about the budget, ways to cut stuff, so that they just don't have to keep passing levies and taxes constantly to make us pay for all this stuff. So, let's see what else.
Yeah, your time has expired, Joe, but,
And real quick, I got a couple things, and I'm gonna look to my Assistant Director of Finance over there. Those calculations, the increase in taxes, correct me if I'm wrong, those are included in our estimates, correct?
Yeah, so.
Okay, so what Mr. Pucci is saying is that we're collecting extra money, which certainly we will,
Yeah, so
but that's already included in the budget.
That's already in the budget.
Yeah.
We expected to collect an extra, excuse me.
Well, you say it's in the budget, but I mean, if we don't have it budgeted, that's gonna automatically be added onto our bill next year.
But hasn't it
Right.
always been that way? They raise taxes, the big guy like Giant Eagle or whoever, they always pass them on to us.
Jim?
It's always been that
All the
way.
businesses do.
Nothing has changed.
Right.
We're estimating-
Nothing has
Oh,
changed.
hey, real quick, John.
So we're estimated to bring in an extra 264,000 from the increase in property taxes. In general fund.
Yeah. The other thing I was gonna throw out is, does anybody wanna pay more taxes? I don't wanna pay more taxes, I get it. I totally sympathize with you. But I look at the needs of what this community needs. Have you been to the fire station? Have you been through the fire station? Have you seen the
That's a whole
videos?
nother thing, because
Okay.
I guess one of the questions I wanna ask is, why can't they build the fire station where it's at now? On the property that they have next to it and behind it?
What property?
We don't own the land.
You're talking
The
about
Hoover
Main Street?
Company, that's another whole thing. They own part of it, yes. Why don't you guys buy it from them, since they're not doing anything with it? And the building's still sitting there, nothing get done. Why couldn't they buy that from them?
Do they
Make
wanna
the fire
sell?
station right there.
Do they wanna sell?
Yeah,
Why would they not wanna sell?
you can ask them.
Yeah, you can ask
We've been
them,
through
yeah.
that many times
So,
before.
and actually, the property at the Station 1 on Main Street, we actually don't own the entirety of that parking lot. I don't know if, a lot of people don't realize that. It's a very small parcel that we actually own there, so, yeah. But
You said,
I mean, all the properties that you guys have bought over the last year. I know you own property on Apple Road, you know, I've gone through all the things.
Mhm.
There's hundreds of them listed that the city of North Canton owns. They can't sell one of those and make them an offer, they can't refuse to buy the property next to the fire station.
And rebuild the fire
And build the
station?
fire station
Yeah,
there.
we've got the property across the street where we're hoping to build the fire
What did you
station.
pay for that property?
What are we gonna pay for the property there? We can split hairs all night, but
I know,
I appreciate your
there's a million
comments.
different things that can be done, right.
as a
I'm just,
resident of North
I'm just
Canton,
saying what the public's saying when they see these increases
Yeah.
on their taxes.
Yeah,
And that's what they're gonna know, and that's what they're gonna see and say, hey, I don't wanna pay another $600 a year in taxes, you know, and.
I get it.
So,
I get it.
it just,
you would say, as a resident of North Canton, you know, there's numerous cuts we can make and stuff. But what are some of the cuts you see that we could make? Or what service are we providing you that you're willing not to have anymore?
why do I see every city truck and every fire, police car running 24 hours a day? What's the reason for that?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Answer that for me.
All right, for our police cars, we have camera systems in them. We have computer systems in them that are connected to our CAD systems. We have more systems in them that require that small little battery to keep everything supported. We have to keep that stuff running when we're on shift. When we're on shift, they're in the office for some bit, they're in the cars for some bit. If they have to shut everything down to go in the office and come back out, they have to relog back into everything. All of that drains on the battery, so that's why those cars run. It's more efficient for them to run for that period of time than it is to turn them off and then come back out to a dead battery. That is the purpose of our police cars running the way they do nowadays. When I started here in '94.
I replace the battery all the time, I hate it.
I started in '94 and we were harped on that about, you know, turn the cars off, turn the cars off, turn the cars off. We've just hit that point where we have so much equipment in the car that relies on the battery system for the car to stay running that there's only one battery. We had one Cruiser, one set of Chevys that had two batteries. But everybody else now is just one battery to support it, and majorly it runs off the engine being on. That's why we have our Cruisers running like that.
That's a good question, because I asked.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know. But, you know, we're not picking on you or anything, but, you know, we always like to give.
I welcome this question.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're welcome.
Yeah. I appreciate you speaking
Yeah,
tonight.
thank you, Joe.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.
Head over to department reports, start with the mayor, Mayor Walter.
Thank you, President Story. Just thank our presentation from Carl and Joe for your sharing your comments, and Maureen Alder from Arts and Stark, of course. We had a safe Halloween, and just looking forward to reevaluating and stabilizing our budget for the coming year. And that's very light report tonight, but just glad that we'll take that list and we'll look through it and see how we can work together on it, okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, that's all I have.
All right, Finance, Jim. In his new spot.
Yeah. Decided the big leagues today, right? The report, we'll get back with you in terms of budget and put something together. And I'll talk to Gina, she's out, she had a procedure done, so, but yeah, we'll get back the 18th.
All right, thank you. Catherine?
I just want to say, appreciate everything everyone's doing, you know, tighten the belt. It's not easy, and it won't be easy to look into every department, look operationally, look at personnel, but we will do it. And talking about this issue of the dog, you know, I just want to say that, you know, we all love a dog, we do, and nobody was, you know, so I like that you came up with this kind of maybe some creative solution. Maybe there's a sponsorship, maybe there's a fundraiser, you know. One of the things we saw when we were in looking at dispatch and we were at Canton was they talked to us about they're hiring a full-time social worker, because yes, that's what we're saying the dog essentially is being used for, is for these kind of situations. Because one could say, what law enforcement activity is this dog doing?
Right.
You know, it's not a dog, it's not a canine dog, it's not a drug sniffing dog, it's not.
Oh, it's not? You told me it was.
I thought it.
Oh my
It's not
I thought it
gosh.
was.
that. So it is more of a therapeutic dog, but are we there, are we in the therapy business or are we in the police business? And that could be splitting hairs, but then to my point, like I'm saying, that it is a lot of this. They have children that are upset, you know, adults that are upset, and the dog can have a calming effect. But Canton was saying that, but of course we're not Canton, probably with the higher level of issues that they have, but they were hiring a full-time social worker. Because police are asked to do more than law enforcement, they're doing social work too. So I like that we're being creative and finding a way, because we do have donations that come in for the dog, that come in from vets, and the dog was donated, you know, from someone. But that's really just paying for the food and the vet bills and the kind of care things. The money that does come from the general fund, that's for the officer, the care of the officer. And that'd be great if we could get some additional money, because that's helping our general fund, our savings account, where, you know, we talk about that's what we're spending. Just some other things, so like I said, I'll get back to you on that. As far as looking at, you know, restructuring, what we can do best in every department. And speaking of that, what we did, you know, with restructuring the building department, we're moving forward on that. And we did, you know, we have our chief building official in place, Martin Van Gundy. And now together with Marty, we are reestablishing the positions, and we have posted 3 positions: the building inspector, the code enforcement officer, and the permit tech. We just went ahead and posted them all up, and we're gonna start those interviews next week so that we can identify who are gonna go into those roles. We may have some of the current staff that's there that may be interested, some may not be, and we may have new staff. So we'll get that established, and we'll know, you know, going into the new year, we are ending the contract with Safe Build at the end of the year, and we're bringing back our building department. So we also, in the selection process, I think it's next week, or is it this week? We're interviewing the 4 RFP candidates for the management of Arrowhead. So we have, including the current operator, we had 3 other management companies apply. And we're holding those interviews to make a selection on that agreement. We'll bring that back to you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Catherine. Liam?
Really the only thing I have, since the other 2 of the 4 attendees did mention it, last week we had the opportunity to go to the Ohio Municipal League Conference down in Columbus. It's just a great opportunity to meet with a multitude of other municipalities and different officials, elected officials, administrators, and then attend several breakout sessions on various things that impact the city and things that we can learn from and do better and improve. It was a great opportunity. Catherine, Mayor, myself, and then Administrative Specialist Jennifer Cross attended. Then we had a really good time and learned a lot that we can hopefully bring back and revamp some processes and prepare for things coming down the line.
Thank you, Liam. Let's move on to council reports. Start with Ward 1, Jamie.
All right, perfect. I want to thank Pastor Carl Pace for coming in and giving the invocation this evening, my pastor, so I want to thank him certainly very much for coming in. I want to thank Alan Harold and the folks from Arts and Star for coming in. And lastly, Mr. Pucci, I want to thank you very much for your comments. Other than that, no report other than just thanking. I think I have to send some thanks to Liam, Ben, and Catherine for some conversations we've had about different things over the week. So that's it.
All right, thank you, Jamie. David, Ward 2.
So one thing on personnel and safety, last week, Mayor Wilder, he swore in as a newest part-time member of the North Canton Public Safety Communications Center. So welcome to Joel Hammer, who comes to us with a background in public safety and communications. That's my report.
All right, thank you, David. Melissa?
No report.
All right, that was a quick one. John, Ward 4.
A couple things. I saw the street sweeper out. Thank you very much. 2 days later, there's from the leaves imagery. I had a coffee with council this past Friday, and I had talked to 4 people about the levies and stuff, and it looked like we got nice votes from them. Matt and I are planning to have one on Friday again at Whole Latte Love Cafe on Main Street from 9 to about 10:30 or 11 o'clock to talk it over. These things have worked out in the past. I want to plan on having more so we can get some more public input. I did get a call from our Mrs. Best? The lady who spoke last week, Mrs.
Bass, yeah.
Bass.
Yeah.
She called and she couldn't make it tonight. She wanted to publicly talk about the proposal or ordinance that we may be putting on for noise. But she's going to plan on coming on the 18th. I'm going to call her back because we don't have speakers for committee of the whole. So she can start her public speaks. Other than that, remember, next Tuesday is election, very important day. We need everyone's vote. There's a lot of issues out there for the state, the federal, stuff of that nature. So let's do our part and vote. That's it.
All right, thank you, John. Stephanie?
Just thank you again to Director of Finance and Assistants and Director of Operations and the Mayor and everybody for just continually looking at these budgets. You know, we had some pretty tough meetings over the summer and the public asked for us to do that. And I think it's necessary that we keep going over it and really treating it. I mean, I think we all do that on our own personal level. I know I do it in our house continually, and you're always looking at things that you thought you needed and reassessing. You know, wants and needs are very different. And we may not always get what's bright and shiny, and you have to kind of put things on hold for a little while. And so thank you very much for all the department heads for keep going through it and being willing to maybe take a pause. You know, I know when we were in the meeting, we were calling directors of various areas and saying, how bad is the roof? How bad do we need this? What about this? And people were upset, you know, and I remember Ben saying, ooh, people are not gonna like this call. But I remember that meeting, and we were tasked with looking at everything. And that's what we continue to do. So thank you for that. And that's it.
All right, cool. Thank you. My turn. Joe, thank you for speaking. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the work that you went in to do the math on that stuff. And it is a concern. I mean, I think everybody feels the pinch from inflation on a local level. I hope Alan helped kind of lay things out on what we really get as the city and how we run. Because it's tight. I mean, it's not easy. We certainly didn't get the same percentage that the COLA got in previous years, and we don't get the support from the state that we used to get. So it's tough. But we're always open to hear ideas. That's why we're here. That's why we do such a public meeting for all the budget and why we have public speaks and all that stuff. So I appreciate your comments. Alan, that was fantastic. I'm so glad that he came and laid that out.
Yep.
so well with the slides and everything, and I can't wait to share that with everybody on social media. I think that's great. And
Just
Arts
a-
and Stars, thank you too.
Just to follow up, Alan just texted and he was like, anybody who has a call, and Mr. Pucci, he said directly, he goes, tell him to call me. And, cause he's that good.
Yeah,
And,
he is.
and you had kept saying, did you talk to Alan, did you talk to Alan?
Yeah.
And I know why now.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish that he could be at my leadership programs, because I think people don't understand this and they don't know where the money goes. I love your idea of the color-coded chart though on that, so you can see where things go. It does help you decide, and it helps you put
Good idea.
priority in things. But yeah, I meant to say thank you for that.
Yep.
I get why that was important.
It was, when I actually, Robert, your article in the repository, when Alan spelled that out in the paper, it made sense and a lot of people caught on, but not everybody reads it. So the assumption is when somebody sees a 30% increase in your appraisal, that, oh my gosh, my taxes are gonna go up 30%. That's not how it works, and Alan spelled that out very nicely. So I hope that helps.
And the assumption to where it goes.
Yeah, that's another thing, correct, yeah. So that's all I've got, but final call for new business? Okay, seeing none, the meetings calendar, we'll have no meeting on the 4th. The 11th, we'll have a committee of the whole, and we are tentatively scheduled to have a we have to have a public hearing. So on the 18th, we have to do that,
Yep.
yeah, so.
In City Council.
The 18th will be public hearing and City Council, so. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.